And we're back. You know, it's funny because I thought we were doing really good, but no offense, I'm gonna share the blame the way it's supposed to be. Folks, I was minding my own business because that's what I do. I'm not too much of a troublemaker. And we took a look and we saw that this is Telethon number 10. And I, of course, was like in complete shock because I've left the responsibility of numbering all of these telethon segments to him. And it's 12 hours later. So somehow you lost two in all of your prep.
Yeah, I
What
don't
did
know.
you
I don't
do?
know what happened, man. I'll blame it on you. You're the one finger pointing on the keyboard.
On the key, oh, you blame it on
I
me.
tell you to put on 12, you put in 10.
Oh,
That's not my problem. You're half deaf.
what'd you say? Folks, we're back for another segment of our telethon, which I guess this is the 12th hour. It's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Okay, so this makes it a lot more violent. But we have another good, phenomenal guest. And we're going to let people know up front that this is Kirk Riese. We've had him on interviewed previously, but he's joining us today. So let's get Kirk without too much in. Welcome, Kirk. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, thanks for the time. You guys are doing a good job. 24 hours. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
But we got to bring attention because, as a number of our other guests have mentioned, by coming together, we're stronger, we're louder. The purpose of this platform and our collection of platforms is to be a news reminder of what should be fact and truth and accountable and prep and tell the stories that are required, which is kind of why we have you on here. You've been a guest before. We have a kind of idea of some of the stories you've been going on through. Are you up to anything new these days?
You know what? Yeah, lately there's been a lot of news stories coming out on actually APTN, which is kind of odd, but there's their stories are exposing the FSIN and the AFN.
Who
which
are
I've been
they?
trying to do for over 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and like they are talking exactly what I've been screaming for 10 years: the corruption in the bands. And don't get me wrong, it's not just the bands; it's corruption everywhere. Like it's across the board. It just unfortunately, I think people are picking on the bands because that's what the agendas are calling for. And yeah, I've been screaming for over 10 years. The last 6 years I've been in exile because I actually got all the evidence to expose these people. When I say these people, I'm talking about politicians, RCMP, and a lot of it is caused by the MSM, mainstream media, who unfortunately get so much money and they report on what they are told. And the odd thing is, people the last like probably 4 years I've probably done 70 interviews. And it's unfortunate, but these podcasters and influencers actually thought they were interviewing me, but I was interviewing them to see if they were responsible and ethical enough to tell the truth and to tell the stories. You said earlier half truths and stuff. Well, that's fine. Well, actually, it's never fine. You always have to tell the whole truth, and that's where everyone's going wrong in society today. Like we have like an hour to watch TV at night. Most people work, and then they have to look after the children, and they have to do their house chores and stuff like that. We don't have time to watch 50 podcasters all telling this side of the story or that side of the story. Why can't they just share the truth? And I really appreciate you guys sharing the truth. Oh,
You're good.
Okay, yeah. And so yeah, today, I had an interesting day it's in the ship. It's actually, yeah, I did. Your brother did come up here. Elliot and Sharon, real nice people. I was very pleased to meet them because they stood up. And I thought my story would break then, but it's just so many people are scared of the truth.
That's
and
right.
A lot of the people say, Kirk, I'm not going to listen to your podcast because you're on it with this person. Or I'm not going to get you on my my page or my space because you insulted my friends. Well, guess what, people? Get better friends. You know, I get that all the time. You know, you wouldn't believe how many people have told me not to go on your show here, and I'm sure you got a lot of people saying, whatever you do, don't get Kirk Riese on there. Well, that's fine, you know. But you know what? How about this? How about prove me wrong? And you know that Mr. Kirk that was assassinated there, I never really heard of him, but I actually had Kirk Riese prove me wrong on Facebook for years and years before it, you know. And that's a common thing. Like, I wish I could be proven wrong. But I've traveled the world. I've been all over the, you know, to Europe and countries, and you know, all of Canada. Of course, I worked all over in Ontario for Gold Corp and Schlumberger, and in the Arctic, everywhere. You know, and unfortunately, I like Canada's gone to shit, and I love Canada. I love Canadians. You know,
Yeah.
everyone always says, "Oh, well, you swore an oath to the king." I swore an oath to Canadians. You know, my military oath was to, when I was swearing it, I was, in my heart, I was like, yes, I can help Canadians. Not once did I think I'm supporting the king or it was the queen at that time. You know, so all those oaths and stuff people take, no, bullshit. You know, it's your choice to do the right thing. And we have codes in the military where we have to report wrongdoing. And I did that. Unfortunately, it implicated way too many people, including RCMP and right up to Trudeau. And it just bothers me so much that people are so afraid of the truth. Why don't they just question us? So if you got questions, please ask me the hardest ones. And again, this is on short notice, but I did send you guys a lot of documents, and I post a lot of my documents on Facebook, where I'm heavily banned, like shadow banned. I get like 2 or 3 shares. X, I get maybe 2 or 3 shares. But that's the thing, is how come the people don't want to hear the truth? My phone number is 639-994-9310. It's public. You know, it's posted on my Facebook page. It's actually one of my pinned one of my pictures. My phone never rings. The odd time I'll get someone that would see some of my bumper stickers, Let Kirk Riese Speak with Kirk Riese at Outlook.com, with my phone number on it. They would phone me and say, I just wanted to see if this phone number worked. I'm like, gee, thanks, man. Do you want to hear my story? No, we want nothing to do with you. Please erase my number. I get that like 3 times people phone me.
Wow.
Yeah. Go ahead, and you got to interrupt me every 10 minutes or I'll get on these rants.
Well, let me stop you on your very first rant.
Sure.
This is the most beautiful thing. We had somebody earlier go to, I'll say quiet, the story that we were sharing at the time, to redirect it in a different direction that, you know, is worth discussing. Different points of view are fantastic. We accept it and embrace it. But they wanted the notoriety of having the opinion. And I can tell you it didn't go over very well on this end because we called them out on it and they disappeared.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's unfortunate, but that's how people roll. If they don't like what you're saying, they'll just block you. And unfortunately, a lot of these people are wannabe politicians. And if they are blocking people now, can you imagine how bad they're going to be when they're elected?
You're speaking the truth, sir. Yes, you are.
Yeah. And again, I have no political affiliation. I have no religious ones. I've never been to Israel or anywhere else. I don't have anything to do with those foreign countries. It was my oath to protect Canadians, and I've done just that. And you know what? Everyone says, oh, you have an agenda. I was like, yeah, my agenda is to be legally released from the Canadian Armed Forces after now 16 years of impeccable service. You know, and that's the thing, is how come they get rid of people with impeccable service? Like teachers, I see teachers are being, you know, you mentioned teachers earlier. My sister's a teacher.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, my wife's a EA, you know, like, that's the thing is, you know, they have to teach what they're told. But when it comes down to that, my wife knows if they're teaching something we don't want, you guys are coming home, we can homeschool, you know?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, my psychiatrist, who says, Kirk, you're awesome, you know, he says, you have you sound paranoid, schizophrenic, you sound delusional, but you're not. He says, Kirk, just make sure your kids know how to read and write and do arithmetic. And, you know, that's important, right?
Isn't that the punchline, though? We were talking, one of our very first shows today in the telethon was about eliminating the conspiracy theory, the half truths,
Yep.
and that seems to be the common denominator for all of these misdirected individuals, is they keep trying to stop our voice from having movement. Now you
Yep.
brought in an idea that you wanted to discuss today about Bill C-290.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, BC 290 is a whistleblower protection for Canada, and it's been in the Senate for years. You know, and that's the thing is they amended it to protect the villains, but they didn't amend it to protect the victims or the whistleblowers. You know, and I actually did whistleblower spaces on X with Sue Spruill for the last 6 months, and you know, I get the same thing. Nobody wants to deal with us. Luke Sabron was a whistleblower for Border Patrol, and you know, he reported fraudulent passports going to the cartels.
Yeah, we
And
heard that. Yes.
they took his pension. Like I used to talk to him all the time, and he says, "Kirk, I was in the House of Commons. They all know your story. You know, Pamela Forward for Whistleblower Canada. She did like she asked me for my documents. I sent them. She's like, "Oh my God," you know. But that's what it is. It's like you have too much information. You didn't pick a party to expose. You exposed them all, and that's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you see 4 people or 5 people beating up on somebody, you don't just say that one guy was beating up on somebody. You say they all were, and you tell
Yeah.
the truth, right? And then, guess what? Hopefully, 5 people go to jail. But that's the thing is everyone says, "Oh, you know, oh, I gotta protect my party." No, you don't. You know, if you need a better leader in there, maybe you should run. Like I actually tried to be a candidate, and the Elections Canada wouldn't even let me be a candidate. Like
Huh.
it's so weird. But yeah, Bill C-290, whistleblower protection. Why do all these people talk about all these other bills, but they will never mention C-290? And
Well,
that is because it would change the world and Canada for sure.
okay. Now this bill has not become law. It's in the second reading as of October 31st,
This
24.
this amendment is in the second. It's been in there for like 7 years or 8 years or something.
Holy
Wow.
smokes.
Yeah, and you know every time it's supposed to get to reading, they break, and then it's got to start again. It's just like my story. Like I've implicated so many politicians and mostly national defense. You know, starting with Jody Wilson-Raybould was in charge of Veterans Affairs when I reported my findings. She quit the week after, and then I went on to Harja Sajjan, and then Anita Anand. You know, and that's the thing. I have to tell my story over and over again, and then they just transfer him to another one. You know, like,
Yeah.
and all these politicians, they block me. And why? I'm a really nice guy. Trust me. You know, I'm a very honest. I don't become belligerent. But that's what a lot of people say. Oh, you're too aggressive. I'm like, I'm trying to save my country, our country. You know,
That's good.
and it just you know, my grandfather came from Germany. He had to fight in World War II for like he came from Germany and fought for Canada. You know, World War II. My dad served for 8 years as well, and I'm 15. 9 on books, but I was never legally released. You know, to release me, they have to take my documents, and they won't. So this Bill C-290, you know, if it came into play, everything would change immediately. They'd arrest a few people, sure, and then they go to jail. But then the rest would probably toe the line. But who's the first ones to go? You know, that's the thing. And
Yeah.
and there's all this. They're protected. In my case, they're not because all of my stuff is national security. There is no time limit. There's no statute of limitations for my documents.
No.
And so they don't know no one knows what to do with me. They're hoping I'm going to die. Like they actually said I have a grave illness which is going to end my life. But I assure you, I'm in great shape.
So
But
I'm
yeah.
just gonna kind of go through this.
Yep.
So the proposed changes to Bill C-2 with 290 include expanding the definition of wrongdoing, which I have a problem with that before you go too far. Wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
Broadening the scope of who can receive protected disclosures. Wouldn't it just be automatic?
You would think.
extending protections to former public servants
Oh,
and
yeah.
government
Former
contractors.
parasites. So we got to protect our parasites.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
Increasing penalties for reprisals. Or how about increasing penalties for non-movement or non-action of
For the parasites.
for the parasites? Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. Mandating a recurring review of the act.
It's all an act, buddy. That's where they're all actors,
Okay.
all the government personnel.
Some concerns have been raised about potentially trivializing the process and overwhelming the system. But it's intended to improve transparency and accountability. Now,
Within the government. Huh, that's
Kirk,
funny.
I guess that's the thing is, when I go and I say, who can receive protected disclosures, is your experience, Kirk, that there's a wide group of people that you were able to give disclosure to?
Yep. I have sent my stuff to the Independent Disclosure Office, which is mandatory when you're in the military. That's where you're supposed to report wrongdoing. The Public Service Integrity Commissioner of Canada, Joe Friday. I sent you. I think it was.
Yeah.
I have that stuff where I'm spilling my guts, and he says, "Yeah, it's not my area." But there is no area. Like even Human Rights Canada, they say, "Oh, you're part of the military. You have no human rights." If I was any other, I'm going to say this, if I was any other color or nationality or sexual preference, I would have all the rights in the world. But a white male that served his country for 15 years has zero rights.
That's right.
And there's a lot of good people out there, but they don't want to stick their necks out. And that's the problem is, oh, we're going to face reprisal. Well, how about all 10 of us go? When I reported this, I thought at least 5 guys would stand behind me. No, they all backed up.
Have you seen evidence of the extended protections?
I've never seen any protection for anybody except the government or the villains. Yeah, on my stuff there's no denying it. Like I have the emails, I have the audio recordings, I have video recordings, everything. The police, what's above her, like even I went like just the Coast Guard station just over there. I saw they had a new patrol boat here with a bunch of new RCMP, and I've gone there like 6 times, not to there, but to that. It's called the Inkster, their ship, and I've gone on there and I've talked to all of them like at least 6 times. They're like, "Kirk, this is way above our pay grade." And I said, "Well, get your boss on the line." "Oh, my boss isn't going to want to touch this either." Well, who does that? They openly say we don't deal with human rights violations, or well, who does? Well, we don't know, and that's the thing. They came here to Bella Bella, and they look up Maxwell Johnson, APTN, handcuff story. They came here with like 20 police from all over Canada to say sorry for arresting him for 15 minutes for depositing a $30,000 check with sketchy ID. Me, I was arrested here at the police station, lost my careers, lost over $350,000 in my bank, all of my properties, and they're still trying to take. It's just they're just finalizing my last property. I think this week. And
Wow.
But this bill was brought forward by the Bloc Québécois.
Yep.
Where's the conservative movement? Because I'm sorry, but I can't support NDP or Liberal like it can't. So that leaves the conservative. Where's the conservative movement to actually give some teeth?
You know what? You should see the responses I got from Pierre before he became a candidate. I was like, "Hey, Pierre, you want to save Canada?" And he looked at he accepted my documents, and then he blocked me. It's the same. NDP's the same. I'd say way worse. Like even Freeland went to Larange there a few months ago to promote her new Liberal candidate, who was an ex-NDP candidate. Like, come on, guys. Like, and that's the thing. I didn't pull any punches to any party. I implicated them all evenly. Some of them did worse than others. Yes, the Conservatives did better because they pretty much 100% ignored me. Even Aaron Gunn, Rachel Blaney was the veterans whip for the NDP. He replaced her out of Campbell River. He won't talk to me. The recordings I have will blow your mind. They're basically saying, "Oh yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12 emails. Oh yeah, I have all that recorded." and you know, then they just retire and get their pensions. Where they took all of my pensions. You know, they erased them. Same with Seuss rules. You know, at the press of a button, everyone's talking digital ID. They pressed a button 10 years ago and erased all my bank accounts, all my properties, all my tickets. You know, as a master electrician journey, you know, instrument tech, all gone. You know, I don't exist anymore. They erased my whole military career.
So if we're going to move on this,
Yep.
like, there seems to be a whole number of systems that are not overly transparent in this process. So
Everyone.
other than this as a media, which is what our purpose for today is,
Yep.
what else do you think we can do?
No, I think this is the only way, and that's the thing. Like, I was interviewing podcasters for the last 5 years, and none of them have come up. Well, a few have come up. Payment is Scary. You know, he's interviewed me like 5 times. Bob Leone 5 or 6 times, but you know, he interviewed me with like Arthur Pawlowski. I thought Arthur would get my story out. Instead, he blocked me because he's a politician. Everyone wants their piece of the pie, right?
Yeah, that's the problem with the politicians,
and or even the wannabe politicians. Like I always say, like in Laurent, there's this guy. He says, "Kirk, if I tell you your story, he was a counselor for the band. It's career ending." I was like, "If you don't tell my story, it's career ending." And he was the only one that never got reelected this last time. But I have all that documented, and people shouldn't have to worry about their jobs for helping me. Like I got 2 kids. They're both native, you know, and everyone in the lodge loved me until I became a whistleblower. And because Kirk, you know, we got to live here. There's so many murders up there and so many people dying just in the last 6 months after Trudeau gave them each $35,000 cash instead of 45. Like the band kept 10 to keep them under thumb. And the amounts of ODs and murders after that and it was bad before. Like it was the worst in Canada before. And now it's far worse. They don't report that. Instead, everyone's chasing friggin' ostriches around. You look at Viva Fry, like he's known my story for years. And, you know, some guys just aren't making the cut. But I appreciate you guys, you know, because you got on recently, a few weeks ago, you did an interview with me, and here I am again. So I really appreciate that. But that's the thing. You can't just do a one-hit wonder, get a whole bunch of shares and likes and walk away.
Well,
I'm still in exile.
This is the thing that this media platform is designed to do.
Yep.
It's not one. We have audio, video, and print. But the stories that are coming in are human. They're not something that 3 minutes and it's covered and it's finished.
Yep.
We want to move it to the next step. You're not moving it to the next step unless you can get a group of people to move it forward. It's got to be a popularity, a decision to bring people from the left and the right together to move forward with solutions.
Yeah.
We've got solutions for cases like yours, for everything that we've been presented with so far. But what we don't have is the existing reputation as the authority coming forth with truth and evidence.
Yeah, no, that's a tough one.
But
yeah,
that's coming.
How do you get accredited? And that's, you know, I was thinking about that earlier when you said you had a solution. And I thought about it, you know, everyone that votes, maybe they also vote. Where do I send my $5 to you guys or to Arthur Pawlowski or to? I'm considering you guys influencers and podcasters, just so you know. Don't take offense to that.
Of course.
You know, and that's the thing is like you should have a choice. Would I send it to CBC? Hell no. AP10, no. Global, not a chance. You know, I have dirt on them for 6 years. They could have stopped this from happening. They could have saved so many lives by just sharing the truth. And that's people got to focus on that. People hiding the truth are costing lives, you know. And like I know so many people, like 4 of my son's babysitters were murdered and suicided after I left Laurent, Saskatchewan, you know.
Yeah, you were telling us about
That's
that.
too much. Like I have pictures. I have them begging me to try help them get out, and I just didn't have any funds at the time, right? And I was in exile, like living in an abandoned boat, you know. Like that's the thing is, with all this support, they should have had support back home in Laurent.
Well, this is the thing. It's that while we're showcasing this as a Alberta-based media delivery system, if you will, we're covering stories across the country because they impact Alberta.
100%.
They impact the way things are done, the way they should be done.
Yep.
And if we can get the the right information coming in. Like you provided us with documentation. We added the documentation right to the podcast that we posted on our site. So anybody who questioned you could look at that evidence. We're open to getting, oh, it's all fake. We didn't write that. Go ahead. Tell us the documents that aren't right. Let's discuss it. Let's show. But it eliminates any of the chit chat about fairy tale stories that don't exist.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. There's so much stuff going on out there. So much, like, it just offends me. All these messages and videos people that want me to watch of aliens and lizards and all this stuff. Like, I'm sorry, guys. I deal with stuff. I can focus. I can prove myself. Like, I don't really go into the weeds that much. But like, I wish I could just share my evidence. Like, and that's the thing is like the Fifth Estate contacted me a few weeks or maybe a month ago now. But I sent her a bunch of stuff and then they blocked me. And it's been the same way with Jose Barrera, with the CBC Reporter of the Year, Angela Starrett, Reporter of the Year. You mentioned something about donations and stuff. I offered $10,000 like 5 years ago for anyone that could find an MSM, RCMP politician to take my story.
Yeah.
You think I had any takers? It's impossible.
And for our viewers, not just today, but from our podcast and stuff, that we're going to use this as historical reference to, I guess, our starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Your evidence is found right now on our website, hheradio.com, in the archive section. We have all of the documents, even the stuff we didn't cover in your last interview we posted there as well.
And it'll stay there.
Yeah. Well, all anyone has to do is look on my Facebook, and that's the thing. Like the major, he says, Kirk, we were going to release you with a medical discharge, but now we're going to release you 5F because you keep posting your stuff on Facebook. I'm like, well, no shit. When I get death threats, and I was running around the country with a 5-year-old kid with guns, smoke grenades, rations, trying to find a place I try to get asylum in the States. This is serious stuff. And when they gave me back the guns at the border crossing in Abbotsford and shook my hand and said, here's your guns back. You might need these. What does that tell you?
Yeah. Especially with a kid in the car. Yeah. It makes wonderful sense.
Yeah. And, everyone wonders, and you know what? We can go back to December 2018 when I told my sergeant major, I have to prove just how bad it is. And he says, you can go ahead. And he gave me permission to do this. And it was an order actually. And I said, I have to show just how bad it is. And I am. And it's terrible. It's worse than anyone can imagine. Why military people kill themselves and their families, and of course I would never do that. But on paper, I look like one of those people that would, and that could. And that's
because you're making noise.
Yep. And, they took my guns. And then 4 months later, I find out that they legally couldn't. But it's all recorded. Like, I have the recordings of the RCP calling me. Like, I was arrested, sent to a mental hospital. I was supposed to be there legally 21 days. I agreed to go there to be assessed. I thought, right on. I'll share my documents. They wouldn't look at one thing. Instead, they kicked me out of there after 12 days, back to a lieutenant colonel and a captain and a second lieutenant. And they wouldn't take any of my documents. They said, sign here on this line for a 5F. I'm like, I'm not signing that. Well, they've been signing my name for friggin' 10 years on my pay sheets. And the payroll manager is a L'Orange Band member. The lieutenant governor of Saskatchewan, Russell Morassi, a friend of mine, used to be a friend of mine, I used to go for coffee with him, is a L'Orange Band member.
Are you trying to suggest there might be a connection here?
There is 100% connection, and I can prove it all.
Just being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Look,
yeah. Well, it's worse than that because it's Harry Bellegarde of the AFN connected. And you see, look up Chief Tammy Cook-Searson with the King shaking hands. Like, they're all part of the Great Reset. I have the documents because the military, after they canceled my pension, they said, if you want any funding, you can contact the Prince's Operation Entrepreneur, POE. That was when the King was the Prince. And that's where, it says right in there, this is all part of the Great Reset, authorized by the WEF and endorsed by Perry Bellegarde of the AFN. Wow. And that's who was just being reported on 2 days ago. His secretary is now in charge of FSIN. AFN, I can't remember. But, that's the thing. They promote the secretary so that it all stays in in house, right?
Stays in house.
And
That's right.
like in the Rangers, we have to elect our leadership every 2 years. Well, they stopped doing that the year I complained. They said, no, we're good. We're going to go 4 or 6 years now because they don't want to. They were happy with the money laundering going on. And I just want people to know that the Rangers have the highest mortality rate in the Canadian military. We don't go overseas or anything. We're domestic security. That's it. You know,
Wow.
I taught survival skills for reg forces. You know, worst case scenario, we're like -50 stuff. Here in BC, it's not my element, but you know, survival is something. You got to be able to survive without the government's assistance, and that's
Hey,
where we're running into problems. Because
but Kirk, I'm sorry, but it makes no sense that the highest suicide rate is in the Rangers,
no,
who
it's
are
not suicide rate, mortality rate.
or mortality rate, I should say.
Yeah. Well, guess
Um,
who? You get killed when you speak up. You know, the Gary, shoot, I can't remember. He was the military ombudsman. He said outright, you know, the Rangers have the worst record. I didn't even know we had rules. You know, I did. When I asked for my T4s, they said you don't get T4s. You know, I was naive because, oh, it's government. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, I was in it for the money. But then when I started connecting the dots, I'm like, holy shit, this is a lot of money laundering going on. And that's the thing, is a lot of them can't read or write English, and there's nothing against them. You know, just they're from like way up north and stuff, and that's fine. But we don't have banks, or they don't have banks up there, so we deal in cash. And if you speak out, guess what? You lose all that cash, and it's the only cash these guys can get. You know, and they're
Yeah.
good guys, good people, men and women that signed up to protect Canada.
Wow.
And our main goal, it was to protect Canadian sovereignty since 1947. And we have different rules. You know, I don't have to go to my commanding officer. I have to find the proper authorities. And I've tried that for 6 years and there are none. So I've been posting my stuff because if they want me to stop, they can bring me in, take all my, like the Military Police Complaints Commission. Actually, every month I get a letter. I should get one in about like tomorrow, the next day, saying we're still investigating. Well, it's been 6 years, guys, and not one question was asked of me. And that's the thing. How come these people don't ask me any questions? You know, I'd love to be proven wrong, but it's not going to happen, and they know that. So I'm not collateral damage. Sorry, people. I'm going to still do my duty to Canada, even probably after I'm released. But it is what it is.
Oh, so Kirk, what's next in your battle? Because obviously it's not over yet.
It's not going to be over for a while. No, my battle is now. I went out and got firewood. Like I'm very blessed to be where I'm at because the people are very supportive of us. My wife is, you know, she's an
Awesome.
EA, and our kids are in school. And you know, two band members came out and they picked me up and they got me 5 trees. You know, we went out beachcombing, got a bunch of cedars. I got to cut up tomorrow. I got to survive for the next few months. And that's the thing, is like, how can we do this stuff? Well, if I would have missed that article on the APTN about the Saskatoon Tribal Council exposing the FSIN and AFN, that would have set me back, you know. And so how can we focus on our jobs when we know Canada's falling apart? And I don't think there's going to be a Canada to deal with in a few years, you know. How can we leave that to our children? So we got to
Correct.
pick one, like doing these podcasts. Like, thanks for having it at night, but or making a living. And unfortunately, a lot of people have to make a living in this country, and the ones that
That's
don't,
right.
guess what? They get all the money in the world, and they just have to keep towing the line, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait a second. Are you telling me people make a living off of this? Sorry, but
You know what? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it takes a lot of time to do this stuff. You know, it takes a lot of time to investigate stuff. How come Global, APTN, CBC, CTV, they block me? You know, they should just phone me. But,
Yeah.
you know, I actually, if the documents I have, if you ever want to do the MSM, I got so much, man. So much. And they would just blow your mind. And then they wonder why people are dying because they're not reporting the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't go into the weeds about any vaccines or anything like that. Thank God I knew about the corruption, or I probably would have. No, I wouldn't have anyways. But you know, it just people got to start asking questions. How about, hey, Kirk Riese is a fraud, grifter, idiot seeking attention? How about prove that? Where's your evidence? How about I've never, I don't even ask for money, but like, how about they just prove me wrong? And that's the thing is, these guys are huge podcasters, you know,
Yeah.
500,000 followers, and they could solve my problem in 10 minutes, but they don't. You know, I saw Odessa Orowitz or whatever. She did one on the natives today, and I'm like, we were in an interview with Dean Ryan called "The Whore of Havana" about Trudeau. They won't contact me back. You know, I have all this. Jim McMurdy, the teacher that got fired for not doing the land acknowledgement, I have so much documentation that would prove his case through the roof, but they won't even press share. You know, that's the thing. I can mention names all day, but I don't want to go there. But
Okay, hold on
you know,
a
all it
second.
takes is
Hold
all it
on a
takes.
second. Kirk,
Yeah.
Kirk. We're almost done our segment for today, but hold on. But you brought up the land acknowledgement and the teacher.
Yep.
On a
Jim-
different day, I don't suppose you'd consider inviting him on with you to go through the details of that particular discussion, would you?
I would love to go through the details with anybody, but they won't.
The
They
teacher
got movie
won't?
deals coming on. They got books they need selling, right?
Oh,
You know, come on, guys.
seriously?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, like I said, I was doing whistleblower spaces for a year, you know, and even the people I interviewed wouldn't share the space because I incriminate their friends. I incriminate the guys that are publishing their books. I incriminate the guys that are promoting their stories. I'm sorry. That's my job was to protect Canadians and Canadian sovereignty. So if they are at a risk to Canadian sovereignty by hiding the truth, yes, I'm going to expose them. However, they can simply press share. Let Kirk Riese speak, 639-994-9310, you know, or share, even, hey, share my story. Mocha Berserk Media, he also came to the ship, you know, and he says, Kirk, you have way too much evidence and it'll get you killed. You know, Stu Peters phoned me years ago. He said, Kirk, I'd really like to get your story out, but I'm so surprised you're alive. I'm like, gee, thanks a lot, man. You know,
Well, and without promoting you or promoting the story, I guess, that is the risk, is it not?
yeah. Well, again, like January 17th, when I was sitting there with the warrant officer, Mohegan Haneke, he's like, Kirk, you stepped on so many toes. Think of your babies, think of your children, you know, just quit. I'm like, fuck you. I was like, I'm protecting my children and everybody's children, you know?
Yeah.
And he was almost crying because he knew he was screwed, you know, and I asked whatever happened to him and they just said he's gone. You
Wow.
know, they're all special forces, right? And how come
Yeah.
all these special forces guys protect the Rangers? The Ranger strong, like the CFB Esquimalt. You know, how come all these guys, Lieutenant Colonel Russell Meads was investigated for being a far right extremist? You know, I think he's just a thief. I don't think he's a far right extremist, but I actually like the guy. And then Eric Maiglander, you know, he made national news for being for calling Trudeau a treasonous bastard. I knew him personally. He's a good guy. He sent my kid a birthday present the first year I was in exile. You know, he's the only
Yeah.
Ranger I still talk to. You know,
Oh.
and then there's Corey Huron, another Ranger. He drove through the gates of Rideau Hall trying to report and arrest Trudeau because it was his duty. And I actually listened to the politicians say, oh, yeah, he was contacting us, but we just thought he was crazy. Well, he definitely didn't think that plan through. I wouldn't recommend that.
Isn't that a lot of the concern is that we come up and we say, hey, listen, the government or the powers that be are misleading us. And everybody goes, oh, they would never do that. You must be wrong.
My sister, I got it recorded, of course. She says, Kirk, just tell them you were wrong. Tell them you made a mistake. I did not make a mistake. I am not wrong. You know, I am still trying to protect Canadians a lot more than a lot of these big buck podcasters. I'll tell you that much, you know, and you'd think they would all get together and prove me wrong. One of them must have the courage to come up and prove, like when they say I'm a conspiracy theorist, lunatic, you'd think one of them would have the balls to confront me and go on a space live, you know? Not, if you can organize that anytime, you know? Yeah.
Well,
Alberta, the grassroots is posting Scotland Yard is requiring all officers to declare any affiliations to secret societies, such as Freemasons.
Yeah.
Due to
Who
issues
cares
with-
about Scotland Yard? Let's talk about Canada. Like, did Alberta, the grassroots, share my story? You know?
you know what? you've got a valid point from there. The points across what's going on outside of Canada and what's going on inside.
I deal with here.
Yeah. But there's a lot of, what do they call, commonality.
Yeah.
The testing that's going on in Europe with the mass immigration and the fact that it's hitting Canada in a bigger way today. It's the same problem, just at different levels.
You know what? You mentioned housing. The markets are like 400 grand for a starter home. Yeah, exactly. I was in London, and this beautiful woman tried to pick me up, and she said she wanted to take me home with her. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. This is like 30 years ago, whatever. But but hold on. And I said, well, who are you living with? And she said, well, my mates. I'm like, what do you got, like a 2-bedroom or something? She says, yeah. I was like, well, how many people are there? Like 8 of us. I'm like, what? Including her ex-boyfriend that was eyeballing me. I'm like, you want me to go there? Like, are you insane? But that's how it is. 3 or 4 generations or a bunch of people just, I'm not sure if that's common. Well, yeah, it is common because I talk to a lot of people. And they don't even believe, like I've shown them pictures of L'Orange, like with my dad's plane and where we lived and stuff. And they said, that's not real. I'm like, yeah, it is. I was there last week, And that's where we're gonna get, like, not so much Canada because the north is too brutal for most people, but the cities are gonna be overrun. Then what?
Yeah. Well, Kirk, thank you very much for joining us again. Really appreciate you sharing some time and some thoughts.
I want everyone to know I can be very pleasant. Just share the truth. But if you don't share the truth, you're not gonna like me. So, and
You're awesome,
you can also
Kirk. Thanks.
everyone can redeem themselves. We can start from scratch. I forgive everybody, but we got to save Canadians first.
Yeah.
And thank you, gentlemen. And yeah, anytime you guys want to come to the ship, it's a beautiful place. There's lots of fish, and I think you guys might want to rent some rooms for the next 20 or 30 years coming up soon.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Kirk.
Thanks, buddy, for
Appreciate
being
it.
a
Have a good day,
warrior.
gentlemen. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care, buddy.
Well, that's where it is. The story hasn't changed. He's staying pretty focused on.
Canada, saving Canada.
Truthfully, yeah, that's what it is.
He thinks a lot like us. 100%.
The problem is that his story is so shocking. It's so disagreeable. It reminds me of the lady Debbie who we had on, and her case, and they're all the same, just from different perspectives.
Horrific.
But that's what this media is supposed to do. Is we're supposed to be sharing the information.
And I always thought the Rangers were like the Canadian model of the Marines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he's telling us this story. It's not a story. It's a fact. It's giving us a factual look at what's going on deep inside the Rangers, the operation in Canada. It's horrible. It's unreal.
But we hear Kirk's story, and then we hear about the interview that Pat King had within the military, and then we have the justice system, the RCMP. We're having all of these stories basically communicating the same issues.
It's all coming out.
It's all coming out with the same storyline. These are people who don't know each other. They're not connected in any way, shape, or form.
No. But they should be.
They
Maybe
should.
Pat
And
will do a story for Kirk. You never know.
that's what we're doing here and we're sharing here.
That's right.
So look, it's break time for us. Kirk says he can prove everything he says. Well, Kirk, I'll just
I know he can.
add a little push to it. Folks, if you have any questions about what Kirk's brought up in this show, like I said, go to the archives page on HHG Radio, go to his Facebook page. All the documentation's there. And as he says,
Try proving him wrong.
prove him wrong.
Prove him wrong.
And we'd even do it publicly.
That's right.
Anyways, it's break time. We're going to cut out and we'll be back at the top of the hour. And hopefully you join us again. Remember, if you're staying up this late at night, take a look at your Facebook links. See if there's anybody else awake, still functioning, active. Share it. We'll see you at 10 o'clock.
Bring him in. Tell us a story.